1, chapter 7, text 5. 1, chapter 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 1, chapter 7, text 5. 1, chap everyone has iPod or the Bhagavatam. Okay. Please repeat. Bhakti Yogena Manase
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Pasyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatapashranam
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Pasyat Purusham Purnam
Mayam Satat Apasrayam
Mayam Chatapashranam
Please repeat.
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Pasyat Purusham Purnam
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Mayam Chatapashranam
Mayam Satat Apasrayam.
Bhakti Yogena Manasi
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Mayam Chatata Pashrayam
Mayam Satat Apasrayam.
Bhakti Yogena Manasi
Bhakti Yogena Manase
Samyak Pranihite Male
Samyak Pranihite Male
Pasyat Purusham Purnam
Apasyat Purusham Purnam
Mayam Satat Apashrayam
Mayam Satat Apasrayam. Bhakti Devotional service Yogena by the process of linking up Manasi upon the mind Samyak perfectly Pranite engaged in and fixed upon Amale without any matter Apasyat saw Purusam the personality of God Purnam absolute Mayam energy Cha also that his Apasrayam under full control. Translation. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaged it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Purport. Perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. In perfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman, because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. In the Upanishads also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayena Patrina, the veil of impersonal Brahman. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusa, or person. The Absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusa is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external and marginal energy are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of our activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apasrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are Atmaram or fixed in trance take shelter of this Maya or eternal energy. Devotional service of Bhakti Yoga is a function of the internal energy, and thus there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss obtainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of God, Sri Krishna. The Paramapurush cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna, as will be explained in later slokas. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranite mare apashyat purusham purnam mayam satat apashrayam. Does he fix his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism? And does he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control? Almighty Mandasya Janjana Shnakaya Shakshamitamina Tasmai Shri Guruvena Chitchetanya Manovistam Saptam Vena Utaleshkam Kadana Pradati Svapadantikam Pandeyam Shiru Shiyuda Padakam Shiyum Vaishavam Sashirupam Jagjatam Sankam Raganatam Pitam Tam Sajivam Satvetam Surutam Parijan Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devan Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shri Vishakam Nipansha Hey Krishna Kamasudina Bandha Tirapate Vishakam Kantana Kantana Taptakam Gaurangi Radhe Vindavana Shri Vishwamana Sitadevi Kanmaya Mariki Pankakalpadubhya Sankirpan Vishapatnam Mahavashvyamanamana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Ambedkar Shiva Sangha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Namo Krishna Krishna, Shrimati Bhakti Charismatinani, Namo Krishna Krishna, Shrimati Bhakti Charismatinani, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Vachari, Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paskachari. So we are at the fifth lesson of the third section of our introductory course of Srimad Bhagavatam. This section is concerned with the history of the Bhagavatam, who that the Bhagavatam came about. And we may remember that this section started with Srila Vyasadev's dissatisfaction. He felt dissatisfied in heart, and then his spiritual master Narada Muni appeared, who immediately pointed out that yes, you have been concerned mainly with the body and not with the with the well-being of the soul. You have been concerned with the welfare of the body of people, but not with the essence, the soul, the persons. And he said, you have done such a wonderful job. You compiled all this Vedic literature, the Mahabharata, all so many Puranas, that yes, in the middle of the Mahabharata we find Bhagavad Gita, and so Krishna is there, but it's on the background, like it's compared to the great story of the Mahabharata. It was not the focus of its writings. So Narada Muni pointed out, you feel dissatisfied because you did not glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead enough. So please, because people are suffering because of want of Krishna consciousness, that therefore you should now demonstrate the power of Bhakti Yoga by writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, and to emphasize this power of Bhakti Yoga. Narada Muni told the story of his own previous life, how he just by hearing the Bhagavatam from the Bhakti Vedantas, he became quickly elevated to the state of a pure devotee. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva was advised by Narada Muni, now you write Srimad Bhagavatam, and to do that, you meditate on the absolute truth, that in pure consciousness. And after Narada Muni left, immediately Srila Vyasadeva started to follow the instructions of his spiritual master, and that's happening in this verse. He fixed his mind perfectly engaged in the linking process of devotional service. Linking process of devotional service, it's a very meaningful expression because it contains the essence of the whole process of devotional service. Yoga means connecting, linking. So Bhakti Yoga means connecting in love, through love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That we have to learn how to link our consciousness again with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we are in a diseased condition, spiritual diseased condition. That spiritual diseased condition is Prahlad Maharaj has called it Prita Krishta. We are seeing things separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although everything is connected, he's in every atom. Bhagavad Gita explains that he's the doer, we are not the doer, because not directly, but he controls material nature. And that's one point made in this purport very clearly. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has material nature under his full control. It's not going to control him. It's under full control. And that. So it means the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never come under the influence of Maya or the material illusory energy. No, it's under his control. So that's a misconception of Mayavadis who thinks that Krishna is a manifestation through material nature. So you see here, this verse indicates very clearly how we can realize the absolute truth. And Srila Prabhupada calls it the absolute truth, personality of God. So the absolute truth is a person, the personality of God. And to realize that absolute truth, because that's the purpose of hearing the Bhagavatam, how are we going to realize that? Realizing is by this linking process of devotional service. That's the main thing we have to learn, how to link all our activities, how to dovetail, that's another word Srila Prabhupada used, dovetail, in devotional activities. It doesn't matter what job we have, what we do. No, it's a question of you do your job, you link it up with Krishna, you do it for the pleasure of Krishna. I remember when I was working in the hospital, home for retired people, that it was a hospital which was founded by the order of Sister Siencer Sisters. This is an order in the line of Benedictus. And all these nuns, they are married with Jesus Christ. And many of them were working in the hospital as nurses and so on. And they were doing their job. They were serving, or they were doing their service with the idea that they were serving personally Jesus Christ to every person. So that's, of course, that we cannot compare it to our process, which is so based on a very deep knowledge. But when we do our job, yes, now we are going to do our job for God. We link it. Because we do it for Krishna, we should do it perfectly. We don't offer something second class. It should be first class, because it's for the personality of Godhead. And by that we link. That's many techniques of linking up that also we see here that Srila Vyasadeva, he has a vision of the absolute truth, but how did he get that vision? Yes, it's by this linking up in devotional service, but then there is a condition. Without any tinge of materialism. That means pure consciousness. That pure consciousness, which is described in so many ways by our acharyas, and in Bhagavad Gita also, there are many definitions. But Rupa Goswami's definition, Anya Vinasa Sunyam Kyanka Madhanakam Anupurvinina Krishna Nishilnam Bhakti Utama, means pure, that unalloyed devotional service means that we don't want the fruits. The fruits of our activities are for Krishna. I don't do it to get some profit out of the activity. No, that's for Krishna. And without mental speculation, that it means, yes, what's the function of knowledge in the process of Krishna consciousness? Transcendental knowledge. It's very important because our faith in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge, transcendental knowledge, understanding how I'm different from this body. That's important to understand, but once we have realized that knowledge, that we are not his body, then that is not really the focus anymore. The focus is using this knowledge, that buddhas, that atmanas, that nishta, that parayana, punar kachant anavritim, kalna nirduta kalmasa, jnana nirduta kalmasa. Means by using our mind, intelligence, and all our convictions to surrender to the Supreme Lord, then jnana nirduta kalmasa, then all doubts are removed from within the heart, and it's clarified by this transcendental knowledge. But that happens by the transcendental knowledge. It's not so difficult to understand. If you have transcendental knowledge, yes, you act. But while acting, you do that in the understanding that I'm not this body, I'm the eternal spirit soul, and I'm serving Krishna. And another aspect of the transcendental knowledge is that does not belong to me, that belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is meant for his service. That's another part of the knowledge. Means if I do not act in the service of Krishna, if I don't use everything in the service of Krishna, then it will be a source of misery. That's knowledge. And shall we? But in every action you start to realize that. Yes. You become attached to something, immediately you remember Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. And you correct your inner attitude that very quickly the attachment goes. But attachment goes when we are becoming attached to Krishna. That's the same, being attached to Krishna or detached from sense enjoyment. It's the same thing. That's very important to understand. But attachment to Krishna is the real renunciation. just giving up something, that's false renunciation without knowledge that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. That's an important aspect, because it's by that knowledge of engaging everything in the service of Krishna that we attain freedom from all attachments. That another important point here in this purport is that Krishna Balaram ki jai. That to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest realization. Because to understand that Krishna is the highest realization, that requires some insight or transcendental knowledge. And that's the second part of transcendental knowledge. The first part, which just before mentioned, is that understanding I'm different from this body, and I'm a servant of Krishna. But then the other part means understanding who Krishna is. Otherwise, if you don't understand who Krishna is, you cannot build on a relationship. You have to know the person. If you want to have a relation with someone, you need to know that person. And you need to understand Krishna's transcendental qualities. And we have to cultivate that knowledge. Therefore, when Krishna says Chatur Vidavichantimam, Yetanam Sukhitarina, then Krishna mentioned that the jnani is the most dear to me. That of the four kind of persons that come to Krishna, Artha, Shishnartha, Artha, Shri, Jnanisa, Aradrakshava. So one who is in distress. One who is in distress. Why is he in distress? Because he does not have realized this transcendental knowledge. That because he's in distress because he's identifying with the mind and the body. And he's in distress because he thinks that belongs to me and that's for my enjoyment, and now I'm frustrated, I have so many problems that they're distressed. Those who want wealth are also in illusion. They think something can belong to me. Nothing belongs to us. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's under your care for the moment. Why is it only under your care? To be used in Krishna's service, not for your sense enjoyment. So that's also a lack of transcendental knowledge. And then those who are inquisitive, they want to know so many things and they are addicted to speculating about things. But the best Krishna says is the jnani, because the jnani, he wants to know about Krishna and he wants to know who he is. So therefore, Krishna says that the jnani is the best. Because Vānam jnanam ante jnanam prabhachate pasdeva sarvamiti samatma sadurava. After many births, such jnanis come to the conclusion, after speculating for so long, Krishna is the source of everything. But the devotees, they immediately accept Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no question to search anymore. Krishna gives all the knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. We just have to understand it from the proper source. So such person he comes to the conclusion, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that so Krishna is not the Brahman effulgence. Brahman is just one of Krishna's energies, spiritual energy, like that. So, because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmanehi Pratishthanam, in the last verse of the 14th chapter. So, I'm the source of Brahman. Before he said already that nothing, everything depends on me. Nothing is independent from me. So Brahman is an imperfect realization, and also the localized Paramatma. That just by realizing Brahman or Paramatma, you cannot enter into the Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world. Not possible, because entering in the spiritual world means being that one is situated in this linking process of devotional service, has linked up with the personality of God. But one cannot link up with the impersonal Brahman, or linking up with the super soul. But the linking process with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Sarvamiti, everything. His Brahman also is also a localized Paramatma. So now we have here Srila Vyasadeva meditating in this pure consciousness. He could do that because he was a liberated soul. We are not on a platform that if you are completely peaceful, even pramasa manasa inside, then you can start to perceive Krishna in your heart, that he is there. And then you start, naturally you start to communicate. But when Srila Vyasadeva was meditating, he saw Krishna. He saw not only Krishna, he saw that at the back of Krishna's back there was a religion that he could see not only the material worlds, he could see the spiritual worlds. He could see between the Virajya which separates the material and the spiritual worlds. And he could see that those who were transcendently intelligent, they were in the spiritual world, and those who are less intelligent, they are here. So we are here. We can understand our position. But to link up again with Krishna, now in the next verse, text 5, where it is explained how to do that. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes material nature, thinks himself as a material product and undergoes the reactions of material nature. So that's the problem. We are identifying with this body, and we think ourselves products of material nature, where we are in reality spiritual beings. How we are connected with this body? We are in reality not connected. It's because as a spiritual being means consciousness. And our consciousness has become polluted by that idea that I am the body, and that I am the enjoyer. It becomes polluted because we start to put ourselves in the center, and not Krishna Balaram. But that process to connect again with Krishna. That's called the surrendering process. And by understanding this surrendering process and apply that, we can escape the entanglement of material energy. So this surrendering process that's explained in the purport of this verse, that Srila Prabhupada explains this surrendering process and says, he explains it's the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering waves of the illusory energy. So the surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. That's an important point in the surrendering process. We cannot surrender at once to Krishna, but it's going to association. Association with saintly persons. Therefore, Narada Muni had explained his previous life experiences that because by the influence of speeches of saintly persons, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, saintly persons who actually realized the Supreme. So it's not that we can get help of everyone. It depends on their level of realization of the Supreme Personality of God. So the association of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme. And then one hears, and then one engages in devotional service, practice. And by doing that, by engaging in devotional service under the instruction of the spiritual master, one gets taste for hearing about the Lord. And by that taste, one is elevated to the platform of respect. That's very interesting, the platform of respect, because we hear the Bhagavatam, we hear Bhagavad Gita, we start to understand, yes, that we start to understand the value of devotees. First thing to understand, value of devotees and the spiritual master. And we come up with respect. We become respectful to the devotees. We know our spiritual life depends on cooperation with the saintly persons. That's the first respect. Then we start to understand from the Bhagavatam how the universe is governed. And there are so many demigods in charge. We start to understand, we are not the controllers. We are controlled by all these demigods who are servants of the Supreme Lord. So one becomes respectful to all these demigods, understanding, yes, they are also devotees, and that they help us in our devotional service. And then one becomes respectful for the Vedic scriptures. One understands that the goal of all these scriptures is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we start to understand that Krishna is the Bhagavatam, and Krishna is his holy name. And one starts to cultivate respect for the holy name, and not misuse it for sense gratification, but to advance in devotion and service. That by hearing the Bhagavatam, one comes when it comes to respect the purpose of scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are meant to bring us to the Paramahamsa stage. And when I understand, yes, all this karma kanda thing in the as described in the Vedic literature, it's like a pot of poison. So I should not perform my devotional service to get something in return there for this temporary body. But just for making spiritual advancement. One start to understand, yes, I've got this intelligence and this mind, and now I should use it to hear with attention the scriptures and trying to understand it, my intelligence and so on. And I should cultivate faith, be faithful, and develop compassion, and develop respect for all other living entities, and try to give these other living entities Krishna conscious. That it's all about respect, and this respect, these are the 10 offenses against the holy name. You recognize them? It's all about respect, and that's just by hearing the Bhagavatam we cultivate that respect. That therefore, that's a platform of respect, and then of devotion and attachment to the Lord. Devotion, just by hearing about the Supreme Lord and His pastimes, we cleanse the heart, and gradually the influence of passion and ignorance goes, and gradually we come to the point of being peaceful internally. And that's the platform of liberation. If you are peaceful and you think of the Supreme Lord, then you can start feeling devotion. Devotion comes from that Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha is devotion, and then Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. From that devotion, real knowledge develops, and that's what Srila Vyasadeva is experiencing here. He's meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and get this transcendental vision that a knowledge comes. He develops deep devotion, because it is by this devotion that he can perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And naturally, in such a condition, one develops great attachment to the Supreme Lord. So respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. That's very important in our society, that we create a society which develops a culture of education in transcendental knowledge and devotion. That's really our business, our mission, and that will help ourselves and others in this surrendering process. So, the surrendering process described here in this purpose, I repeat again the main points, that associate with saintly persons and hear from them, follow their instruction, when you taste, and then that taste will bring us to the platform of devotion beyond liberation and becoming attached to the Supreme Lord. So that's the whole the surrendering process, because then in the next verse, and that's a very important verse, Anakto Pasnam Sakshat Bhakti-yogam Adakshi Lokasyochana Totikam Sakri Satvata Samitam. This verse explains here, Srila Vyasadeva tells us himself why he compiled the Bhagavatam. Why did he do that? What was his purpose? His purpose, he says, the material miseries of the living entities, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled his Vedic literature in relation to the absolute truth. So in this verse, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains further this surrendering process. And it is, I will just read that this purport because every sentence is going very deep. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. This statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes his part and parcels also. He saw, therefore, his different energies, namely the internal energy, the marginal energy, and the external energy. He also saw his different plenary portions and parts of plenary portions, namely his different incarnations also. And he specifically observed the unwanted miseries of the conditioned souls, who are bewildered by the external energy. And at last he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting, the name, fame, glory, etc. of the personality of God. The revival of the dormant affection of love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with loving transcendental knowledge, service, But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigations of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for development of transcendental knowledge. Rather, knowledge dependent on devotional service of the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. Here, what is very significant is that Srila Prabhupada explains in this purport that yes, if we engage in devotional service and Krishna is pleased with our service, he gives us realization, as this verse, Shrimatan Spakata Krishna, one who has developed this taste for hearing, Krishna says, I cleanse his heart, I take care of him, I give him realizations. Also in Bhagavad Gita it says, Tesham Epanakampatam Kyana Chantana Naschana Pashagana Kana Kipena Ashvata. So when the devotee tries to render me service, that Krishna reciprocates and enlightens or helps the devotee from within, that he helps the devotee with transcendental knowledge and gives him realization. And finally, that will lead to the cleansing of the heart, and then devotion will come. But the appearance of this devotion, which is beyond liberation, it's just Krishna's mercy. We are not in control of that. It's not just by performing Vaidhisarna Bhakti I will get love of Godhead. But by following Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, you will mitigate all these material miseries for certain if you follow it strictly. That you will come out of the suffering of the material miseries. That I remember when I was a bhakta and I went to a divorce which I did not want, but what happened? I was separated from my children. That's a very heavy thing. If you have children and you are separated from them, it's very heavy. That's like going mad. It's not only for the mothers, also for the fathers, I can assure you. But at that time I was engaged strictly in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And from the morning till the evening I was engaged. And although it was a period in my life that I want to create suffering, it was also the period of my life that I experienced the greatest happiness. It's amazing. That's the power of devotional service. You get out of all this suffering. It's so powerful that so that's the devotee. A devotee thinks, yes, the goal is love of God, but it's up to Krishna to give us this love of God when he wants. But I will perform my duty and my service for Krishna, and that makes you peaceful inside. And above all these material miseries, you get transcendental knowledge. You get these realizations, but it's also a reciprocation from Krishna, for sure. But the higher reciprocation that it gives you is devotion and of God. So this shows why Srila Vyasadeva combined this Bhagavatam. And now the next verse, that's the last verse of today, and that's it's explaining this a little deeper. Why it uproots these material miseries. What does it mean? Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotion service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearlessness. So, just by hearing the Bhagavatam, you can rid of these things. Of course, hearing the Bhagavatam means hearing submissively and trying to follow the instructions which are given in the Bhagavatam. And we do that through hearing with the spiritual master. That this verse explains that just by approaching a spiritual master with submission, doing some service and inquiry, then you will please the spiritual master. But it means it starts with hearing from the spiritual master. It's most important. The first time it's one of the first time I met Mount Vishnu Goswami from Gujarat, and that he said to us that you do SSI and you get LIF. SSI means submission, service and inquiry to the spiritual master. And then you get rid of lamentation, illusion and fear. LIF. So I always remember that I have to do SSI and then I get rid LIF. So that's the main point mentioned here. Like Sridhar Swami one of the famous commentators on the Bhagavatam, says, not only does the hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam destroy inauspiciousness, it generates devotion to Lord Krishna. Yeah. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada emphasized, just hear the Bhagavatam really attentively, and this lamentation, illusion, and fear will go. Once Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture in India, somewhere in a temple, and an Indian gentleman came in hearing the Bhagavatam from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was lecturing. And he sat at the back of the temple, and he was there 5 minutes, and he fell asleep. Afterwards, the man said, for weeks I could not sleep. I was always full of anxiety. I could not sleep at night. And just by hearing the Bhagavatam, he became peaceful. All anxiety goes, and he could sleep. So it's very powerful, this Bhagavatam. So this section was to clarify the history of the Bhagavatam, how it came about. So next week we will discuss the subject of the Bhagavatam and the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavatam. This is a discussion on the 3 first verses, opening verses of the Bhagavatam, that we will spend on these 3 verses 11 sessions, that because Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Maharaj he gave a whole month lecture on this first verse in Dhaka. 30 days he was speaking every day on this first verse. We will restrict it to 8 sessions and analyze it quite deeply, because that's very important. If we understand this, we will understand really what the Bhagavatam is about, and we will approach it further without major misconceptions. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Would you kindly expand a little more on this personal experience you related, where through the heaviness of being separated from the children, because we're practicing devotional service, you say that the miseries of lamentation and fear are visible, but the realization is something different. So what are the two different things?
Mm-hmm. So your question is, so by hearing the Bhagavatam, we hear that the miseries are dissipated. But then, how to realize that in our own lives? That's your question. How to bring this in practice?
My question is that although you are experiencing a reduction in the miseries, you also said there is a distinction that the realization of the Lord happens by His mercy, and that's a separate thing to the reduction of those material miseries. Because what I'm going to, maybe it will explain, is that I don't have this divorce or separation of my children in the same way. However, they've grown up and they've gone to university and got married, but the emptiness is still perhaps comfortable. However, it's allowing you this beautiful free time to actually focus on truly engaging in devotional service.
Yeah.
But if it's only a mitigation of that separation, that's not enough.
Mm.
So is this what you are talking about?
Yeah, that so the mitigation of suffering that's not the only effect of hearing the Bhagavatam. It's going beyond that. Because how to get rid of these sufferings, especially in the mind, when we are engaged in devotional service, then we become attracted to the hearing and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we start to realize gradually that all these miseries, they belong to this temporary world. To this temporary world, and I'm not part of it. In reality, I'm not part of it. I'm connected with it now by my polluted consciousness. But then it's not that we can say, oh, I have this knowledge, and by that I'm not suffering anymore. That may not work. You need realization. And that realization is the engagement in devotional service, which gives you happiness from the direct spiritual source. And that's called taste, that happiness is happiness. And that, yeah, and that makes you satisfied. At the same time, we may not be spiritually elevated enough to get completely rid of these miseries, but we start to see it in a realistic context, that this belongs to the body. It's not, and by that one creates detachment. Like when John Bharat, he was a liberated soul, and when he was harshly addressed by the king, what's his name, Rauganam, but he was harshly addressed. So there in the purport Srila Prabhupada writes, he felt the pain of being harshly addressed entering his mind. So that's a pure devotee. He felt the pain entering. It's there. But then he realized, oh, that I feel this pain because I'm identifying with this one, with my mind. And by spiritual power, he pushed that pain and that whole emotional feeling out of his mind. And then he became sober, peaceful, and started to give transcendental knowledge to the king. That he was not going to retaliate or something. No. So he became peaceful. He understood the situation. So that's my own experience is that at that time, that when I went through that period of suffering, I understood, yes, this is part of it's a consequence of my attachments I created in this world. And these attachments, they are very temporary. They are unreal in relation to the soul. That so, like, if I go back when I became a devotee, I got so many troubles with my family, with my father and my mother, and they threw me out, and the whole family banned me. But now I look back, what happened 25, 30 years ago. They're all that gone. Where is that point now? It's all gone. So what was the use for me 30 years ago to worry about all these things? Now they are gone. It's all temporary. So one start to realize that if one hears the Bhagavatam, especially when you get older, you see, oh, this person is disturbed because he wants honor and now his honor is broken, or this person is disturbed because he lost all his possessions, or this person is disturbed for some. One can be disturbed for so many reasons, but soon we are just out of here. That everyone gets the same at the end of life. You just die. Whatever you wanted, whatever you have is disturbed or happy about, it's all gone. So that's knowledge. And by engaging in devotional service, you start to realize that this is not real life. This is the life of the body. And I do my duty on that platform, but I'm not attached. That I don't want any position in this world. I don't want to become rich. I don't want anything in this world. I don't want to be a father, mother, and so on. Okay, it's my duty. I do it as a service to Krishna. But don't be attached, because your children will soon die also. They will be gone. So they will undergo the same thing as you undergo. Anyway, I try to express my a bit my own very insignificant validation on that point. I don't know if that's helpful.
I'm still searching. I think that when John Bharat example is very nice. Was there something else happening beyond him just overcoming his mind, that he was hearing insults from Maharaj Raghunatha, that he was composed and he started to instruct him? But that was mercy. Is that what you're saying? That that's actually the realization that mercy is coming from the Lord, or is it just that he's able to overcome his mental platform?
It was never on the mental platform, but we are in this world, and the three modes are everywhere. It's not that because you are a pure devotee that the three modes are not entering your consciousness. The body is made of three modes of your nature, so that nothing is pure in this world. But for a devotee, apuryanam achanapatishtam samudranapa parsam sarvesus. Yeah, it means like rivers enter into the ocean is not disturbed. The devotee sees that entering comes a disturbance in his mind caused by material nature. Well, that he sees that, but he sees that in the right perspective. That he sees the material desire comes up in my mind. He understands that comes from my previous life, and Krishna brings it in my mind again, because I could not fulfill that desire, material desire in my previous life, and there it is again. But the devotee sees that material desire coming up in his mind, and understands, yes, that comes from my subconsciousness, from my previous experiences. And he just leaves it there. He pushes it out of his mind, because he knows fulfilling that desire is very dangerous. In the same way, you have your attachment to children. If that attachment comes up in the mind, if we have little realization, we see that attachment, and we say, fulfilling or good or making that attachment stronger by meditating on it is very dangerous. Just don't become attached to anything in the world in an extreme way. That's also explained in a 24 spiritual analysis. Don't do that. It's very, very dangerous. That if you want eternal peace, don't meditate on that. That's like managers, good managers in Krishna consciousness, they manage in a very detached way. They may deal with so many problems, but they never go deep into the problems and meditate on it. No, they just deal with it and in a detached way. So we have also learned to manage our mind in that way. Deal with it in a detached way and learn this art. And that comes from hearing the Bhagavatam. You get an insight what's really happening in this world, what's really going on. And that gives you the strength to take the right decision. So, thank you very much. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Prabhu ki
Jai.